Hello, salam, shalom, namaste, sat sri akal, aloha, hola, ciao, bonjour, Buddha, and privyet. It's really, really good to be with you again. And I know you will be very happy you have joined us today because we have a very special guest that we will be talking to, learning from, and that is Stephanie Treasure. And Stephanie is an online marketing strategist and business mentor. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you so much for having me, Samia. It is a pleasure to be here. And I loved your greeting to everyone that's listening. I hope you covered all the bases. Uh, Anybody that's listening that didn't hear the greeting, I'm sure you'll understand.
Yes, I'm doing the best I can. And actually, my list of greetings has been growing. When I first started out, I think I was doing maybe 5 or 6 greetings, and now we are at 11, I believe. So,
Wonderful. No, I think you did
uh,
an excellent job.
oh, thank you. Thank you so much for that, Stephanie. I appreciate that positive feedback. And I'm going to have you just tell us more about who you are and what you do as a way to just get us going.
Awesome, sure. Thanks again. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. Hello and welcome to your viewers and listeners. And my name, as Sammy said, is Stephanie Treasure, and I'm an online marketing strategist and business mentor to women coaches, consultants, and service-based business owners who are looking to grow, leverage, and scale their businesses by helping them with the marketing, lead generation, and sales strategies that will help them to be able to attract more of their ideal clients, enroll them in their programs, and make more money. And I help my clients to achieve their ambitious six-figure milestone, as well as, being able to reach more people and make a bigger impact. So that's a little bit about the work I do. I've been doing this now since about 2012, I would say. So I've been in business for quite some time after leaving corporate, and it's what I love to do. Marketing is my background. Also, I have a strong business background, and that's what I get to work on, read about, study, attend conferences as I sharpen the stuff myself, all about business and marketing, my happy place.
Nice. I love that you're doing work that you love, that makes you happy. That is so important for me as a happiness expert because, doing what we love is such an important aspect of our happiness. So I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. I appreciate that.
Okay, so I know there's so many different ways in which you support your clients. There's so many different aspects of marketing and, just making sure you have a successful business. And one of the most important aspects for people who are service-based businesses, who are coaches, who are, people like me and you, one of the most important things that we have to do in the context of growing our businesses is we have to be talking to people a lot. Oftentimes, we have to be the face and the voice of our brand. Um, and so that can involve a lot of public speaking. And I know you have a lot of amazing wisdom to share around that. So please
Yes, yes.
tell me more.
Absolutely. So yeah, one of the main ways in terms of how I started in business, because what I mentioned that I've been working as a business mentor since 2012, I actually started business in 2006.
Mm,
And as in my capacity when I started out, which involved a lot of consulting work, I was faced with having to do a lot of public speaking, and even not fast, but even rewinding quite a bit past that. like I said, I've always worked, I studied marketing and I've always worked in a marketing capacity. And speaking, right, making pitches and presentations for whether in-house teams or outside teams is an essential part of the job. And I actually came from a place where I was very, very nervous as relates to presenting or speaking or, you know, showing up in public in any meaningful way, even as way back as, you know, undergrad and graduate, you know, as well as working on my graduate degree, when I had to do presentations in that respect. I just always had hang-ups around it. I was always one of those shaky speakers, or, you know, I would have paper, you could see it shaking, or my voice would quiver. It was just not something, you know, I would tell people I don't like to be in the limelight, but behind the scenes, I was a powerhouse, right? And I really had to get to a point where I came face to face with that fear of public speaking, that fear of presenting, that fear of being in the spotlight throughout my career, and especially throughout my corporate career, and especially when, as a business owner, I was it. I couldn't delegate that to a second in command, or I couldn't, you know, leave it up to my boss. I was it, right? I was the business owner, the face of my business, and I had to do or die, you know, do my share of public speaking, do my share of speaking engagements, speaking on podcasts like this. Now I regularly do my own live stream show weekly for my community. There's several videos. If you go on my YouTube channel, you'll see several videos there. I guess if you go back to the beginning ones, you'll see, you know, some parts of me that was nervous around doing video, but as you continue to watch the videos, you see a more confident person showing up. Somebody who's a little bit more, I hope a little bit more, much more sure of herself as relates to speaking, doing video, showing up for my community, sharing videos, giving advice, you know, giving tips and strategies on, you know, through video and through live streams.
Mm. Thank you for sharing your own journey. That is so, I think, important for people to know that you can actually grow, like in terms of developing speaking and public speaking as a skill. And so many people are afraid of public speaking. It's, we know the number one fear that most people have, and yet it is something that we can learn to manage and even master over time if it's important for us to do. And you know, just also really appreciated the distinction that you drew when it comes to marketing work. You there is that possibility that you can be doing amazing marketing work from behind the scenes. But it is also true, as you said, like if you have your own business, and especially if you're in this kind of business where you are a service provider, where you're a coach, trainer, healer, like I am, the easiest way to market your business is actually by being the brand, being the face and voice of your brand. Um, I know that was one of the big lessons that I learned as I started to learn about marketing and effective marketing. And so even though you could theoretically try and market your business in a way where you don't have to be the face and voice of it because you don't like public speaking, it can make it more hard, make it more difficult to grow your brand. Hey, thanks for tuning into this episode. Hope you're getting value out of it. For your information, this episode has been sponsored by the Happiness 101 program. Are you a change maker, coach, trainer, or healer? Are chains of fear holding you back from making the impact and income you desire? Using a unique combination of positive psychology and the spiritual wisdom of our most effective change makers, The Happiness 101 program helps you break through your limiting beliefs and manifest the abundance and success you desire with fun and ease. Interested? Book a free Happiness 101 exploration call with me, your happiness expert, Samia Bano. Just use my online calendar link in the show notes. Now, back to the show.
Yeah, right. When you're not when you step into the initial coaching consulting space, right? Because it depends on the kind of business. It depends on depending on what you're doing, that's something that you can delegate. You can hire somebody who's in charge of marketing, who's in charge of PR, who can be the voice of the business, right? It doesn't have to be the CEO, but in the coaching and consulting space, where you are the one that's marketing yourself, your services, you're working with clients one-on-one, they need to hear from you because you're the person that they're ultimately going to be working with. And so it really, you really get to a point where you come face to the face with the fact that you can't hide, right? You do have to do your share of outward content that, involves you putting yourself out there. It doesn't have to be videos. It doesn't have to be speaking all the time, but you can really make great strides when you do include what I call that 3D aspect, the 3D marketing that involves having a person be able to see you move, speak, express yourself, as opposed to just doing nice bust shots and having great captions, great posts. That's great. But when you take things to the point of doing marketing that involves video content, it really puts things to the next level. And that's the content, believe it or not, like it or not, that's most being viewed. There's many stats out there that I can't quote verbatim, but video content is the most watched content. Video content, live stream content is watched more than anything else. So if you really want to reach your people and have them hear you, you want to make sure that you have content out there for them to view in that way as well.
And I'm just wondering, like, for people who have this hesitation of being on video and so forth, because of their fear of public speaking, did you find when you started to work on this for yourself that there's a difference between doing a video where it's just you recording a video on your own versus doing like a live or doing something with an audience present in terms of being able to manage your emotions better or having it be easier one way or the other?
Yes. Both have their caveats, but if I had to choose, I would say doing a video is, for me, was easier than speaking for an audience, right? With a video, you can do several takes, right? You could do a take and you're like, that wasn't good. You could do another. You can do more takes to perfect it, if you will. Although I always tell my audience, don't aim for perfection. Whether you're doing a video or a live stream, you're going to mess up. You're going to, stumble over your words. Just, catch your composure, correct yourself and keep going. But with a live audience, there's a component that's, there's a challenge there where when you're in front of people and you can't do any other takes, you have all these eyes looking at you, which is part of the reason why I would say I fear public speaking. You're on stage, you're in front of all these people you feel like they're going to be judging you. They're going to be analyzing, whether or not you're making sense, hanging on to every word you say. You feel, you start to wonder if you're qualified to be speaking to that audience. So many things that go into it when it's an in-person. But again, even with in-person, so the same way you can do retakes for video, there are some tips that you can, some strategies that you can implement that will help you to feel more comfortable in front of a live audience that
Mm,
will get you through it just as well as if you were doing a video. So
yeah.
if you want, I could share some of those tips with you.
Oh, yes, that would be wonderful. Please do.
Great. So what I found, right, as it relates to, and it's, let me preface this by saying that public speaking, the fear of public speaking is very real. You're speaking to someone who I would say, I can still say I have this real fear, but I have ways that I manage it, right? So let me still put myself in the shoe of, in the list of 10 things that people, top 10 fears with public speaking being number one, I would say, yes, I'm one of those who would put public speaking as a number one, right? But um, there's no, in terms of facing despair, it's one of those, like many other fears, that you just have to face it and go through it, right? Because the only way to overcome it is to go through it,
Right.
right? So what I'm going to share is not going to be revolutionary, and it's not going to be a magic bullet. Um, it's not going to be a magic bullet strategy. It's what worked for me. Um, and it's what can work for you too, right? Has been proven to work, right?
Yeah.
So I'll share with you three things that worked for me to help me to manage my fear and still show up when needed to for podcasts, live streams, videos, in-person public speaking, interviews, etc. Right? So the first thing that was really, 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 really key for me is being prepared, right?
Mhm.
When you're not prepared for anything, you're not going to, if it's a dance, if you're a dancer or if you're an athlete, if you're not prepared, you're not going to do well. And you're going to feel, when you're not prepared for something, you also feel unprepared. You also feel, I can't do this because I'm not ready. I'm not prepared. I'm not equipped, right? And so it's going to be the same thing for public speaking. If you're not prepared, that's one added thing. So let's just say you already have a fear of public speaking. Now add to that your fear plus, oh, and I'm actually don't even know the material. I'm not even quite sure what I'm going to say. I haven't finished my slides. I haven't finished my outline. I haven't finished adding anecdotes to each of my points, right? When you're unprepared, that's another thing that you're going to have to worry about,
Right.
or another thing that would be your concern, or that will, you'll be preoccupied with, that could affect your performance. And so I make it a point to do it, especially when I really, really am nervous. I do a dry run of what I'm going to prepare. If it's a webinar, if it's a masterclass, I've even, let me see if I remember when I've done this recently. I had to travel for an engagement some years ago. So it was, out of my home space. And I went to so it was a hotel, and they had I stayed at the hotel where the event was happening. And so I asked for access to the ballroom, to the room, the meeting room where where I was going to do my presentation. And from that, that area, as much as was set up, because, sometimes they'd set up these things, the morning of. So as much as possible, I tried to stand where, I feel I would be facing the audience, and started to do a dry run of my material, so that not only do I know my material, but
Mm,
I'm doing it in the space and getting a feel for the atmosphere in which I'm going to be presenting, so
yes.
that I'm that much more prepared and ready for the eventual, and hopefully it will take some of the edge off. Makes sense?
It makes a lot of sense. And the only sort of challenge that I know I used to run into, because I used to have, I wouldn't say like an intense fear of public speaking, but I used to be like really introverted and socially challenged in various ways. And so definitely I also had to go through a process of learning to be comfortable with public speaking. And for sure, being prepared helped so much. But what I found myself doing in my early days was procrastinating on preparing, because in my mind, I think I was like, you know, like playing tricks with myself where I, I, I I was unconsciously maybe trying to give myself an excuse to say, oh, I cannot do this because I'm not prepared, by not getting prepared.
Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean, right? Just seeing how best you can avoid it and kind of, avoid it and banish it from your mind and
Yeah,
hopefully you just did prepare. Yeah, I can totally relate. I know what you mean, right?
yeah,
Right? So it's true. So
yeah,
that has really, really worked for me,
yeah,
being really preparing as much ahead of time, right?
right. And maybe
The
having
second thing,
some, and just if for anyone who is like inclined to procrastinate on the preparation part, maybe have an accountability buddy or support system that, so you can stay on track and make sure you take the time to get prepared.
yes, yes, yeah, that's a great idea, right? Have somebody who can relate to your fear, somebody who's a good friend, right? Who will, nicely nudge you and have you do what you need to do in order to be ready for this big appearance that you have to do, whether it's a video live stream, in-person speaking engagement or something on Zoom or virtual, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I agree with that.
Awesome. So what's your next step?
So the second thing that I did, and I think I learned this from someone, I may have read it somewhere, was to mingle. So I would, on if it's like an in-person speaking engagement, which was the one there was a totem pole of the situations where I most feared having to, speak publicly. It would definitely be an in-person event, right? And so what I did, I tried to do, if I am scheduled for, let's just say it's a conference, an all-day conference, and you know how they slot, you have your keynote that goes first, and then you have some other speakers behind that person. So if I know I was slotted for, say, the afternoon slot or mid-morning, but there was somebody ahead of me, I would try as much as possible to introduce myself and get to know the other people in the audience, right? Really mingle with them, get to know them, befriend them so that I can have that familiarity with them, so that once I got up on stage or the podium, wherever I was going to speak from, where I'm going to be looking at this audience, I wasn't looking at a bunch of strangers anymore.
Yeah.
Because I feel like one of the things that would affect me and have bearing on how I felt, how confident I felt when I would speak, is that I thought I was speaking to all these strangers. Why they don't know me, I don't know them, and they're going to be judging me, et cetera, et cetera. So I felt like when I befriended people and I mingled and said hi and say, hey, I'm Stephanie, actually I'm going to be the third speaker. I'm going to be talking at 11 o'clock. I'm going to be talking at 12 about such and such. What do you do? And, I would get to know them so
Yeah.
that we're all friends, right? And if you're speaking in front of friends, if you're speaking in front of family, you're going to be fine because these are people that you know, right? And so that's what I was trying to do, to get to know them, get them to know me, so that I didn't feel like I was standing and looking, all these eyes and strangers are looking at you, while I'm looking at, at them. I don't know if that makes sense, but that worked for me. That has worked in the past for me whenever especially when I've had to speak in-person events, live events.
I love that idea, because not only does it have the benefit of, just like you said, you develop that sense of familiarity with at least some of the people in the audience, so you have a friendly face to look at, and so forth. But also, it's just, for example, um, I know I learned this relatively recently, that, when you go to many of these like shows where, they're doing recordings for different shows for TV and so forth, they they actually have this whole um, like process where they warm up the audience to the host of the show. before the show actually starts, because it has a huge impact. Like the audience gives off an energy that the host definitely feeds off, and vice versa. And so to have a friendly audience, to have feel that friendly presence in the audience, it is super important. And you can actually, to realize that you can actually cultivate that for yourself before you go on stage. I think that is brilliant. That is just absolutely brilliant. And I just loved the process that you shared for how you could do it so simply and so easily. And so like it doesn't have to take a whole lot of time either.
Exactly. Yes, and I did hear about that. I think what I did hear was that if there's going to be, because I've been to a few live comedy shows,
Mhm.
and what I understood when I heard about it was that if there's like a main, say a keynote comedian,
Mhm.
if you will, that's going to be, like lead the show. They'll have like an icebreaker person come on before to
Right.
get the audience, in the mood, to get you laughing at a few jokes as you get ready, especially if they're going to film it. They want the audience to already be primed and already in that
Yeah.
jovial, upbeat mood, so that when they hear the jokes of the main comedian, they're ready, right? And
Yes.
I think for those talk shows, it's probably the same thing where, usually whenever they show the studio audience, everybody's like ready and, in an excited mood, and they try to tease that up by, like you said, doing some things. I hear they even play games sometimes just to
Mhm.
get the audience in the mood and
Yes.
get them, in an energy of, um, being jovial, being excited to be here so that they can showcase that when they start filming. So
That's
that's just, I guess it's a similar, I guess it's a similar concept.
Yeah, but the thing that I really love about what you said about how you make it happen for you is that, when you're going to speak at a lot of other people's events, a lot of other people actually don't know, honestly, how to set the right environment and set the right tone and mood to raise people's energy and stuff. I've been to so many events where, I mean, the energy is so low. And I didn't realize actually that's what I was used to. Honestly, I thought that's just how it was until I started going to like all these trainings with this very specific company. They're called Success Resources now. When I first started working with them, they had a different name. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is that they are masters at doing live trainings and live events. And they have this like really amazing like process that they go through to just build up audience energy for themselves. And when they have guest speakers, they do the same thing for the guest speakers. So like, for example, when you first show up to Success Resources training, right at off the bat, there's like people standing at the door to welcome you and say, hi, how are you doing? Like, just having that cheerful, energetic presence at the door. And then usually they even have and then when people start to fill into the room, they will have like music on, and usually they even have you know like um, uh, uh, like they'll take the first few minutes where like a person will come in and they'll like warm up the audience, like you were saying, by doing things like, hey, welcome, where are you from, like they'll have like call back and forth like different things like that from the audience. So they'll be like, who's from California, who's from out of town, like those kinds of things, just to get people used to responding to this person on stage. And they just do all kinds of little big things to make it happen. And And they actually also believe in asking for what you need. So it's like if you want a certain kind of response from the audience, just ask the audience for it. So they will say things like, um, um, expect this presentation that we're going to do to be very interactive. We're going to ask you lots of questions, and we want you to respond. And they'll be like, if you, and then they'll actually do that. They'll be like, if this is true for you, raise your hand, and they'll actually wait for people to raise their hand, like that kind of a thing. And so it just keeps the energy moving. And yeah, so and so what I heard you share, it made me think about this idea also that taking the power in for yourself. Like if you can go and be part of an organization or an event where they're already experts at building up energy and creating this kind of friendly environment with the audience for you, great. But if you're at an event where the organizers don't have that skill, you can still create it for yourself by talking to the
Absolutely.
audience, mingling with the audience yourself beforehand. I was like
Absolutely.
that. Yeah. Mhm.
Yes, yes, yes. Great example. Absolutely. It's all in your control. You can do that meet and greet, on your own and warm the audience up to you
Yeah.
before you deliver your talk. Yeah.
Cool.
And the third thing that I would recommend that really worked for me was to focus on the value that you're giving and the people who need to receive it. So likely if you're giving a talk, the organizers or whoever invited you to give that talk valued your expertise, valued your opinion, your viewpoint on a specific area, and they want to share this with that audience. And there's people in the audience that don't know you, not exposed to you, possibly not exposed to your type of content or the messages, the information that you're going to share. So focus on what they need to hear, focus on the value that you're giving them so that your listeners or your viewers leave with or walk away with something that they can use, for the situation, whether it's in their business or in their lives. Focus on that and less so on yourself. Kind of remove yourself from the equation because and I think I did hear somebody say this as well. When you remove the ego component, which is, making it about you, because, what you may be nervous because you're thinking, are they going to think that I'm not qualified or they're going to be looking at me and judging me?
Yeah.
Remove yourself and your ego from the equation and focus on what you're there to do, the impact that you're making, the message that you have to deliver,
Mm.
and the person's receiving that message,
Yeah.
right? And what they need to make this have been worth their while, right?
Yes.
And because you're focusing on the job of that or the importance of that, hopefully mentally you'll be less concerned with what they think about you, right? Which will automatically make you less nervous.
Yes.
That's my third tip.
Oh, I love that tip. I love that tip. And I know that is likely to be especially effective for, like coaches and other service-based people who are really heart-centered, like, where you're coming into the work because you love to serve and you love to help other people. And if that's a big value for you, I know pretty much most of the coaches that I know, like 90% of the coaches that I know, they do the work that they do because they love helping people. And when we are able to stay focused on doing what we love, yeah, it makes everything else disappear in terms of nervousness, fear, because you're doing what you love. You're, living out this amazing value that you have. And in that, just like you said, it's not about you. It's about about the people that you're trying to serve and help. And that is just so wonderful. I love it.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So those are the tips that has helped me. And I didn't have this as a tip, but practice, right? And I guess it kind of goes with number one, where I say to fully prepare, but
Right.
practice, the more you do it, it's going to seem, if you're at the beginning of this journey, it's going to seem difficult, but the more you speak, the more you do podcasts, the more you have to speak in person, the more videos you do, the more live streams you do, the more comfortable you are going to automatically get with the process and with doing it, and it will reflect in the way that you're showing up in those respective places.
Yeah, it's like you gave your own example on your own YouTube channel. If people go back and watch your old videos, they can see your growth,
Yes.
and your progress. And same is true for me. Like when I started my very first podcast, this is actually my second podcast show. But my first show, that's called Survivor to Thriver Show. And if you had listened to the earliest episodes of that, I used to like ramble and just, because when I'm nervous, I tend to talk a lot more and be very repetitious. And so I used to do that so much, but I was like, no, you know what? I'm just going to get it out there, put it out there, do it, because otherwise it would never have gotten done, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So
Great.
awesome. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for taking all this time to be with us today and sharing these amazing tips with us. They've been so helpful. I've learned so much from you. Do you have anything you want to share with people as you wrap up right now in terms of how people can best get in touch with you or any other last words?
Sure. You can reach me at I have a website that's my name, stephanietreasure.com. Easiest way to find me. And I have links to my social media there. But on Facebook, you can find me on my Facebook page. It's called Stephanie Treasure Biz, B-I-Z, like zebra. Facebook.com/Stephanie Treasure Biz. You'll find me there. You'll find me on Instagram as well at the Stephanie Treasure. And on YouTube, just Stephanie Treasure, youtube.com/Stephanie Treasure. So look for me there. I'm pretty active for the most part on Instagram. And there's a few recent videos on YouTube as well that you can check out. I love to share. You see many live streams, even on my Facebook page and Instagram, videos that I've recorded sharing business and marketing tips. I speak somewhat about productivity and mindset tips as well. So once you follow me, you'll get more resources as it relates to that. And what I want to encourage you to do is kind of pulling from the example of my last point, where I say, when it comes to public speaking, take out the ego component and just think of the people that you're helping. For anybody that's watching this, that's a business owner and faced with, going about the marketing of your business, whether you're writing, whether you're doing videos or live streams, in whatever you do that you sometimes resist doing it or procrastinate doing it, as you mentioned, because you're worried about how it would be perceived. Take out that ego component and focus on the people out there who need you, persons who are actually looking for your content and they find value in it, whether it's written content or video content or live stream. Think about the people who need to, you need to show up for in speaking engagements and such, who need to hear about the work that you're doing, because they're looking to work with someone like you. Although, right, you may want to shrink back and say, oh, they can, there's many coaches out there. There's many other kinds of experts. There's persons that want to work with you based on your background, your experience, your client success stories, what you bring to the table, how you work, your specific personality that they won't get from another coach. So think about those persons who need your support, who need your help, and continue to show up for them, right? And you do an amazing job. You reach amazing clients who are really plugged in, who are your right fit clients, and they'll feel that you are their right fit coach or mentor. And they'll be happy that your paths crossed. And it would be because you didn't give up on showing up and putting yourself out there for these people.
Amazing. Amazing. And on that amazing, empowering note, we're going to say our goodbyes for now. And until we connect next time, I'm just going to remind you to please check the show notes because we're going to add Stephanie's links in there so you can connect with her easily and make sure you reach the right Stephanie. Although I don't think there'll be very many Stephanie treasures out there. Stephanie Treasure is one in a
There is actually,
amazing.
which
I
is why I
love
had
that.
to do the Instagram that way. I wanted my Instagram to be Stephanie Treasure, but it was actually taken. I was so surprised because I didn't think there were many Stephanie Treasures out there. So
Uh,
yes, yes.
For sure, people check those show notes and click on the links. Make sure you reach the right Stephanie. I'll also drop my links in there in case you need to get in touch with me. And until we connect next time, I wish you lots and lots of joy.